The sun blazed, sand stretched endlessly. This was ancient Egypt, a land of mystery, a land of power. The vast desert with its golden dunes held secrets untold and stories of gods and men intertwined. The pyramids stood tall, casting long shadows over the sands, whispering tales of ancient rulers and their divine legacies. At its heart ruled Pharaoh Firuaun, a figure of immense authority and grandeur. Firuaun was the embodiment of Egypt's might and splendor. His presence commanded respect and fear, a living deity among mortals. He was more God than man, or so he believed. Firuaun was absolute, his word was law. To his subjects he was the Son incarnate, a divine force that governed their lives and destinies. His decrees were unchallenged, his power unyielding, his will was enforced with an iron fist. No dissent was tolerated, no rebellion allowed. His soldiers, loyal and fierce, ensured his commands were executed without question. The people lived in awe and fear of his might. The Nile, lifeblood of Egypt, snaked through the kingdom. It nourished the land, it fed the people. The river's annual floods brought fertile soil, enabling agriculture to flourish. It was the source of life, prosperity, and sustenance for the entire civilization. Firuaun saw it as his to control, his to command. He believed the river's bounty was a testament to his divine right to rule. The Nile's ebb and flow were, in his eyes, a reflection of his own power and favor with the gods. He used the Nile to fuel his ambitions. The river's resources were harnessed to build grand monuments, temples, and palaces. Firuaun's vision was to create a legacy that would stand the test of time, a testament to his greatness. He used it to build his legend. Each stone laid, each edifice erected, was a symbol of his eternal reign. His name was etched into the annals of history, a legend that would be told for generations. From a young age, Firuaun was schooled in power. He was taught the ways of leadership, the intricacies of governance, and the art of war. His education was rigorous, designed to mold him into a ruler of unparalleled strength and wisdom. He learned the art of control over his people, his enemies, and even his own emotions. Firuaun mastered the delicate balance of fear and respect, ensuring his authority was never questioned. He was taught to inspire fear. Fear was a tool, a weapon to maintain order and obedience. His gaze alone could send shivers down the spines of those who dared to defy him. He embraced this brutal education. The harsh lessons of power and dominance were ingrained in him, shaping his worldview and his approach to rulership. He saw kindness as weakness. In Firuaun's eyes, compassion was a flaw that could be exploited. He believed that a ruler must be strong, unyielding, and merciless. He saw mercy as a flaw. Mercy to him was a sign of vulnerability. Firuaun's reign was marked by a relentless pursuit of power with no room for leniency. He would rule through might. His strength was his greatest asset, and he wielded it with precision and ruthlessness. His reign was a testament to his belief in the supremacy of power. He would rule through fear. Fear was the foundation of his authority, the cornerstone of his empire. It ensured loyalty and deterred rebellion. Firuaun ascended the throne with ruthless ambition. His coronation was a grand spectacle, a display of his newfound power and the beginning of his reign. The people watched in awe as their new ruler took his place among the gods. He craved power above all else. Power was his driving force, his ultimate goal. Every decision, every action was aimed at consolidating and expanding his dominion. His reign began with promises of prosperity, promises of glory. He vowed to lead Egypt into a new era of greatness, to bring wealth and honor to his people. But these promises would soon turn to dust. The reality of Firuaun's rule was far from the utopia he had envisioned. His relentless pursuit of power led to suffering and discontent among his subjects. As empty as the desert that surrounded his mighty kingdom, the once fertile lands began to wither under his harsh rule, and the people's hope faded like the mirages in the desert heat. Firuaun's legacy, once destined for greatness, became a cautionary tale of ambition and tyranny. Firuaun consolidated his power ruthlessly. He surrounded himself with loyal advisors, men who served his will without question. He established a vast network of spies. They were his eyes and ears, reporting whispers of dissent, quashing any hint of rebellion before it could take root. Fear became his weapon. He ruled through intimidation. Public punishments were brutal, a lesson to any who dared defy him. His word was absolute. To disobey was to invite death. The people of Egypt toiled under his rule. They built his monuments. They fought his wars. They lived in fear of his wrath. They were but pawns in his grand game of power. Their lives were his to expend. Their dreams were his to crush. Firuaun's power seemed absolute. He believed himself untouchable, a god amongst mortals, blinded by his own arrogance. He failed to see the storm clouds gathering. The seeds of rebellion were sown. They only needed time to grow. Despite the pervasive fear, the seeds of rebellion were being sown in the hearts of the oppressed. Whispers of discontent began to spread like wildfire, igniting a spark of hope among the downtrodden. The burden of Firuaun's rule weighed heavily upon the people, crushing their spirits and draining their strength. They toiled endlessly, their lives forfeit to his whims, their dreams buried under the weight of stone and sand. Resentment simmered beneath the surface, a quiet fury that grew with each passing day. Like a volcano waiting to erupt, the whispers started small, in the marketplaces, in the fields, in the homes of the common folk. Among the laborers who built his grand monuments, the seeds of rebellion took root. They spoke in hushed tones, sharing their grievances and dreams of a better life. They spoke of a life free from Firuaun's tyranny, a life where their labor bore fruit for themselves and their families, a life where their hard work was not for the glory of one man, but for the prosperity of their own people. The idea of liberation began to take hold. These whispers reached the ears of a young man named Moses, a man destined to change the course of history. Raised in the Pharaoh's palace, Moses was different. He saw the injustice that others turned a blind eye to. He felt the suffering of his people deep within his soul, their pain resonating with his own sense of right and wrong. He began to question the very foundation of Firuaun's rule, pondering the nature of power and the true meaning of justice. Moses, guided by a higher power, confronted Firuaun. He spoke of compassion. He spoke of justice. He spoke of a world where all men were free. He spoke of a God above Firuaun's earthly power. Firuaun scoffed. He mocked Moses. He refused to listen. His heart was hardened, his mind closed to the suffering of his people. He clung to his power, unwilling to relinquish even a fraction of his control. But the seeds of rebellion had been planted, and they would soon grow into a force that even Firuaun could not ignore. Section 4. Pyramids of Pride. Firuaun's Monumental Vanity. Firuaun's reign was marked by grand projects, monuments to his own ego. He demanded colossal pyramids. They pierced the heavens, a testament to his power, a symbol of his supposed divinity. These projects were fueled by the sweat and blood of his people. They toiled under the scorching sun, their backs bent under the weight of his ambition. Many perished, their lives deemed insignificant, sacrifices on the altar of Firuaun's vanity. The pyramids stood as a testament to Firuaun's tyranny, symbols of power built on suffering. They were a hollow boast, a monument to a ruler detached from the plight of his people. But while Firuaun obsessed over stone and gold, a different kind of power was rising. The people, inspired by Moses, found their voice. They yearned for freedom. They yearned for justice. Section 5. The Nile runs red, a Pharaoh's bloodlust. In response to Moses' pleas and the growing discontent among the Hebrew slaves, Firuaun, the Pharaoh of Egypt, unleashed his wrath. His heart, hardened by pride and power, refused to heed the warnings and demands for freedom. Determined to crush the spirit of rebellion, he imposed even harsher laws on the people. The once manageable tasks became unbearable burdens, designed to break their will and force them into submission. The workload on the Hebrew slaves was increased exponentially. They toiled under the scorching sun, their bodies pushed to the brink of collapse. The relentless labor was a tool of oppression, meant to sap their strength and hope. Firuaun believed that through fear, he could maintain control over his kingdom. He thought that by instilling terror in the hearts of the people, he could prevent any thoughts of rebellion from taking root. When these measures failed to quell the unrest, Firuaun resorted to even more drastic actions. His desperation to maintain power led him down a path of unimaginable cruelty. In a final horrific act, he ordered the deaths of countless firstborn sons throughout Egypt. This decree was not just a punishment, but a message of absolute power and control. This brutal act was meant to instill terror in the hearts of the people. It was a clear and devastating reminder of the consequences of defying the Pharaoh's will. The people of Egypt were reminded that any act of defiance would be met with the most severe and unforgiving punishment. The Pharaoh's message was clear. His authority was not to be challenged. The Nile, once a symbol of life and prosperity, ran red with the blood of the innocent. This river, which had sustained the civilization for centuries, now bore witness to the Pharaoh's cruelty. The cries of mourning mothers filled the air, their wails a haunting symphony of grief and despair. The loss of their children was a wound that would never heal. The stench of death hung heavy over Egypt, a constant reminder of the Pharaoh's merciless decree. The land was shrouded in a pall of sorrow and fear, yet Firuaun remained unmoved. In his eyes, his actions were justified. He was the Pharaoh, the living God of Egypt, and his will was absolute. He believed that his divine right to rule granted him the power to make such decisions. This act of unspeakable cruelty marked a turning point in the history of Egypt. It was a moment that shattered any remaining illusion of Firuaun's benevolence and exposed the true extent of his tyranny. The people of Egypt, both Hebrew and Egyptian, saw the Pharaoh for what he truly was, a ruler who would stop at nothing to maintain his grip on power. The illusion of his benevolence was forever shattered. This act pushed the people to the brink. The weight of their suffering and the loss of their loved ones ignited a fire within them. They could no longer endure the Pharaoh's tyranny. They were ready to face any danger, any hardship, to break free from his oppressive rule. The spirit of rebellion that Firuaun had tried so hard to crush was now stronger than ever. The people of Egypt, united in their suffering and their desire for freedom, were determined to break free from the Pharaoh's tyranny. They would no longer be slaves to his will. The time for change had come.